So I figured I'd take the opportunity in this vlog to answer a couple questions that have been posed in the channel in the former vlogs a couple times over as well. And so one of them, the big one, the elephant in the room, is did we mount the surround speakers too high? Maybe. It was explicitly asked how high are those speakers right now? So this is the surround left, and measuring from the middle of that tweeter to the floor, it's about 63 inches. And so is that a little high? Well, maybe. Older speaker specs, in a lot of cases, actually talk about putting your surround channels 2 to 3 feet above ear level. 3 feet is probably getting up there. But newer specs, of course, with Dolby Atmos, want to bring things a little more discreet, basically spreading the sound out a little bit, and maybe even bringing those surround channels down. More than likely because a lot of sound now with Atmos is coming from the ceiling, and you don't want your surrounds too high, particularly if you're bouncing with the Atmos style speakers or you're using heights and so on. But a couple of things in my case led me to choosing the height that I chose. And so one of them is I'm not bouncing my Atmos sound, and I took my heights out, which nominally speaking the heights were only formally a couple of feet higher than the rear surrounds are right now. But I moved my Atmos, my immersive speaker positions to the ceiling. And so in that respect, I think bringing the surround speaker locations up a little bit higher than they were on the stands that they were formerly. When I had the Aria 906 bookshelves, they were sitting on 36-inch speaker stands. So roughly to the top of the speaker would be about 50 inches. And of course now we're maybe about a foot or so, a little more than a foot, foot and a half-ish higher than that. And I felt for the room, particularly with the space I have and so on, that the former bookshelves on the stands were a little too point source, a little too close. The surrounds were very much right next to the edge of the couch. The side surrounds, the rear surrounds were only a couple feet back from the couch. But by getting rid of the bookshelves and getting the speakers off the stands, brought everything away from the couch a little bit more. And so it kind of opened up the surround sound presentation quite a bit. And so I wanted to get it further back from the couch, make it a little bit more diffuse. It's still definitely locatable. You can tell what's on the sides versus in the back, but everything blends a little bit better. And so, yeah, maybe I went a little high, but honestly, if I had to cut those holes again, I don't think I would be going more than maybe 6 or so inches lower than they are right now. And so another reason that I went with the height that I did, and maybe looking at my pictures, it might look a little bit skewed, such that maybe they look a lot higher really kind of than they are in the room. But anyway, part of that is because we have a couch, we have a sofa, and it's a pretty low profile sofa as it is. When I'm sitting on this couch, if I'm sitting up, the top of the cushions is probably at or maybe just below my shoulders. So my head is up, it's above the couch, it's open into space for all of the speaker locations and such around it. And if we do get rid of this couch and we do move to chairs, the chairs are going to have higher backs, and it's not going to be as open. And I think with that, it wouldn't, in the pictures and in the presentation, it wouldn't look like maybe these speakers are so much taller than the seating, because the seating itself would be much higher profile relative to the lower profile couch. So I had to make a choice. I was going in wall. You get one position out of it. It's not like the speaker's on a stand and I can move it around, or I can get different stands and I can raise and lower it. When you're dealing with in-walls, you kind of have to come up with all the different reasons why you want to put something where you want to put it, come up with your justifications, come up with your rationale, and then you kind of have to go with it. So in the end, yeah, would I move these down? Maybe 6 inches. Honestly, I don't think it would really make any difference. I think they sound great. I think the surround effect is in full effect. I've been watching that Ready Player One race scene so many times lately because I've been swapping subwoofers, doing calibrations and tinkering and trying to tune everything in. When Kong races across the rooftops and such towards the latter part of that scene, he pans very specifically around the room, around the back of the room, from right to left. I can hear him. I can hear him from the right places. He goes from speaker to speaker to speaker, location to location to location. It's not a muddy mess. it's not too high. And it doesn't take away from the other speaker positions. And again, I think the other key part of that is the fact that my Atmos speakers are in the ceiling up above. So there's a pretty good amount of distance between the surrounds and the overhead Atmos channels. Certainly before, when I had height channels, I would not have wanted these speakers to be this high. They were much better on the lower stands for sure, in order to give a couple feet of separation between, say, a surround back and the height that was up above it. So another thing folks have been asking about is if I've done anything with the tweeters on any of these speakers, and no, I haven't, not yet anyway. So these move they have a pretty good field of play in terms of being able to bias up or down, left and right. And so right now, everything, as I've been using it, as I've been calibrating, as we've watched the movies in here, it's all just firing straight out. The surrounds, the front LCRs, and the overheads, everything is firing straight out relative to its position. I'd say that I've learned a ton about tweaking and calibration very specifically in the last few weeks, and I didn't want to mess with too many variables at the same time. So as I've gotten started with using Anthem and using ARC for the first time, and really getting more involved in understanding response curves and speaker capabilities and measuring and playing with that, again, I didn't want to introduce too many variables, and so I've been doing everything with these just straight tweeter positions, but as I get a little bit further, yes, I probably will experiment with some toe-in on the front left and right channels perhaps, and maybe on these 4 surrounds, which would also potentially help alleviate, or maybe it'll sound a little bit different. The surround effect might present a little bit different if these tweeters were pointing down specifically towards the couch. Again, I don't think I feel any negative effect about the height that they're mounted at, but maybe it'll change some dynamics or change some presentation if those tweeters were angled. But that's something that I do plan to explore, and definitely will comment on and show some results and such as we go forward with the room and using it and tweaking it in the channel. Same thing for the tops as well. The tweeters on the tops are shooting straight down. I could also move those a little bit. They rotate and they have a few degree field of play, so another thing to potentially, variable to change and something to mess with. Given the logistics of my seating and where the tops are, you can see all that in the prior vlogs. I don't think there's a whole lot of need or merit or benefit to really angle those tweeters to the main listening position or main listening position area. If anything, I might angle them out a little bit away because I don't have a monster amount of spacing between my tops. I did 5 foot from the front tops to the rear tops, and a little over 4 foot or so from the left tops to the right tops. And so it's a fairly, smallish square of Atmos channels around the main listening position. There's still separation up there, and things move around, and you can tell and you can hear it, but I'm not like 8 feet apart or 10 feet apart and such. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a lot of need to go angling these tweeters and so on, but I am interested to do it just for the scientific endeavor and interest of it, to see how does it change a measurement, and does it do anything for the better or for the worse. One thing I did though is I've been running calibrations, learning more about ARC, running calibrations again, is I found that these Focal 1000 series tend to have pretty good or pretty high volume, like low mid-range, and then they do trail off through maybe like the upper mid-range and the higher in my room using the quick measure. And so one of the things that these speakers have is the decibel adjustments. So all of them have these little dials. If you caught that click, there's a 3-position dial, and it goes on most of them from -3 dB to 0 to +3 dB. And it affects on the IW6s, it affects the tweeter. There's 2 separate adjustments on the IW LCR6, one for the tweeter and one for the mid-range driver, and then the tops also have a tweeter adjustment as well. I'm not sure offhand though if the tops are -3, 0, and +3. I think they might have a smaller range on them, but in any case, there is a decibel adjustment on those as well. So what that served to do is from the lower frequencies to the higher is make the curve a little more naturally flat by bringing up this mid and this high, so that when ARC runs and it calibrates, it can move the sequence in better cohesiveness. So one of the things that I've been finding is like tuning your room is a whole lot easier when things are naturally kind of level versus if they're like this, or you've got big peaks and big nulls, because as ARC does its things and it adjusts basically the trim on a given speaker up or down, you're moving that whole line. And if you have nulls or you have big peaks, it really limits what the calibration software can do and how it runs its filters. If for example, you have to move something down that already has a null, right? You're pushing the volume of that null lower, or vice versa. So I think I've gotten some better calibration results out of ARC by essentially going to every speaker, and I change them from the 0 mode, or every bed speaker, I change them from the 0 setting to the +3 dB setting, bringing up again the higher frequency part of that curve and starting with a little bit more of a level response through the full range. So I did that on the front 3, and I did that on all 4 of the surrounds. I have not touched the settings. I have not touched the settings on the tops yet, and I made a real rookie mistake when I put the speakers in, and I didn't actually pay attention to what those buttons were set to, or at least I don't remember from the day that I did the install what those 4 tops are set to. If they were zeroed, or if they came out of the box at minus or a plus setting, they just are whatever they are. And unfortunately, they're not the easiest things to reach, and so it's going to be a pain. My OCD is constantly nagging me like to take them out and verify what the setting is, and take a look at the default ARC like quick measure curves that I've been getting and see, do we want a higher trim or a lower trim on the speaker setting itself to try to get a flatter curve. But it's just they're just a pain. They didn't click in rotationally so easily. Putting them in and out, I felt like I was kind of forcing things a little bit, and then it's up above the couch. So if I gotta get the big ladder in here. I don't think I can get up to all 4 of these speakers with enough torque to get them down and look at them with just my little step stool, like the step stool that I keep in the house. So I got to get the big orange ladder back down here, probably bang something up in the stairwell doing it, get that set up to get up high enough, and then I'm going to have to force through to get them down. It's going to make for some insulation and drywall dust falling down. It's going to be more stuff to clean up. So anyway, first world problems. It's a bit of a pain, and I haven't wanted to deal with it yet. So those ones seem to be measuring a little flatter than the rest of the speakers were in terms of the calibrations that I have run. So I've been content to just take the lazy way out for now and just not worry about those and kind of focus more on these bed layers first. The other thing I'll comment on that folks have been asking about is the screen. And am I noticing any weave, or how do I feel about the screen? I think the screen is great. I think from my seating position, I don't notice any image degradation from the weave. We're sitting about 14 feet back and throwing like a 133-inch 16:9 image, zooming for about the equivalent of a 150-inch 16:9 235 image. That's kind of a screwy way of saying it. I mean, it's a bigger 235 image. Even when I zoom up for that, I'm not noticing any weave in any way. I think the screen is great. Yeah, I think I am observing that we lost a little bit of brightness compared to the Stewart. The Stewart SEMA actually performs, I think, at like 1.2. It's rated for 1.1 gain. It performs at like 1.2 or 1.25 from measurements and stuff that I've seen. This is lower than that. I had been running the Projector, the JVC NX7, on the Theater Optimizer high setting in order to bring back some brightness lost by changing the screen out. However, I was watching The Boys, crazy show. I really need to read that comic book series. I binged season 1 and season 2 really over the course of probably the last week and a half. So I was getting towards the end of season 2. Most of the time I was watching it in the living room. It's an ultra widescreen show, and I did find my way down here to the theater to watch a few episodes the other night, and just noticing that maybe some of the highs in the HDR content were a little more blown out and losing some detail. So the other night I did switch it back down to the theater optimizer medium setting, which brought the overall brightness back down to the setting I had been using, with the Stewart being brighter, but restoring a little more of that high detail. Maybe it was just that show. I don't know. We watched Raya and the Last Dragon last night, and I thought that looked great. I don't think it looked too dark, but I think that's a problem that will solve itself at some point, maybe in the next year or so anyway, because the newer projectors, the lasers, and so on, they're all brighter. So I will be happy to make that kind of a projector upgrade at some point. But in the interim, it's by no means bad, and any little bit of brightness that we might have lost really isn't a big deal. And from the perspective of the woven screen and so on versus the flat, flat sheer Stewart screen that we had before, I don't have a problem with it. I think this is great. I incredibly prefer having those LCR speakers behind the screen than the setup that I had formerly, and being able to zoom the ultra wide screen and so on. I would take this setup 100 times over what I did originally the first time. And the other little tweak that I made is I had been moving the subwoofers around. I think that I mentioned that in the prior vlogs. So I moved them I had been running the two Arundels at like the quarter points, which put them, let's see if we can show this real quick here, which actually put the subwoofers on the rug space. But I have been running that Harbottle over in the right-hand corner, and I have one of the Arundel 1723s in the left-hand corner. And when I run the Arundels, I just take the Harbottle out of the right corner. I put the other Arundel back in, and so I have the two Arundels in the corners. I much prefer that, actually, than having them at the quarter points and on the rug. I've just really become enamored with not having any equipment in the field of view. So having the subwoofers inside a little bit more at the quarter point on the rug, I could see them, and light reflecting off the screen down. It wasn't glaring because they're not glossy, but you could see color on the top of the subwoofer and such. But having them out towards the corners, out of the footprint of the rug, they're gone. I'm not looking at them. I'm not seeing them. All the former speakers are gone. Just completely enamored. Massive recommendation. Get your gear out of your field of view. I really underestimated how good it is to have things this way, and looking at other people's rooms over the years, and even before I built my own and such, I should have just did this from the start. It's so much better. So 2 thumbs up and a massive recommendation there. So I think that'll close out this vlog. I'm going to keep this kind of vlog thing going. I'm really kind of enjoying doing them, and so I would put it out there. If you got stuff you want me to talk about more casually, questions that you kind of want me to answer about what I'm doing, what I've done, and such, I think it fits in this format perfectly. So ask them in the comments, and I'll start incorporating a little bit of answers to the questions in the vlogs as well. So much more coming. I got my Kaleidescape Strato C and my 12 terabyte compact Terra should be arriving within a couple days of filming this. Setting that up, I got all the physical media ripping content. I'm right in the middle, in the thick of making all of that. Playing with these subwoofers. I need to quit my day job and just like spend all day down here. But unfortunately, there's a little bit of a disparity between what YouTube is currently paying me and what I make elsewise. So yeah, forget about that. But in any case, please like and subscribe. We're monetized now. Watch the whole video. Watch the commercials. Watch the ads. Look down in the description for some ways to support the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and so excited I will be back very, very soon.